Hi there, so I read the whole A Song of Ice and Fire book series by George R.R. Martin before watching the Game of Thrones TV show, and I've noticed quite a few differences between the TV show and the book. So that is what we're going to talk about today. I have literally just finished season 2 of Game of Thrones, so I'm going to compare it today to the subsequent book in the series, which is Clash of Kings. This one, which is actually my favourite in the series. Kind of a controversial take. I don't think this is many people's favourite in the series, but I just love it. So if you didn't know, I am currently reacting on my channel to every single episode of Game of Thrones from a book reader's perspective. So I will link the playlist to that if you want to see my reactions to every single episode of season 2. It was so juicy. Oh, what a good season. And if you want to see the season 1 book versus TV show comparisons video that I did, then I will link that in the description box as well. So let's get cracking and talk about what differences I noticed. Also, just an FYI that I wanted to talk about. Due to popular demand, I am going to be reacting to the histories and lore videos that are here on YouTube. A lot of you have asked me to film my reaction to that, so I am going to do that. That will be coming up next week. I'm going to do it for season 2, and I really hope that you enjoy it, and thank you so much for requesting it. I want to film what you want to see, so I really do appreciate when a lot of you tell me what you want to see. So I hope that you're looking forward to that reaction as well. So as I was watching season 2 of Game of Thrones, I was writing a lot of the changes down as I noticed them. There are so many changes that if I discussed them all in this video, you would be here all day, and I do not want to take up any more of your time than is necessary. So these are the major changes that I noticed, or the ones that I felt were the most meaningful or the most impactful, or the ones that confused me the most. But if you've read the Song of Ice and Fire book series and you noticed any differences or any changes compared to the TV show that I don't mention in this video, I would love for you to write a comment with them so that other people can see too. So Clash of Kings is my favourite book in the series because I feel like this is where I developed my deepest connections to the characters, and it focused a lot on world building. So what I will say is that because of that, the book feels slower paced than others in the series. Now, if we're comparing this to the TV show, I noticed that they have changed the timeline of events quite regularly, and I think that that is to stop the TV show from feeling as slow paced as the book does. Oh, I love this book so much. So we'll start off with talking about some of the smaller, less meaningful changes, and then we'll move on to the big baddies where I'm confused as to why they changed it, or the changes had a massive impact. Smaller differences. Firstly, they've renamed Asha Greyjoy to Yara, and I really don't like it. I can understand why they've done it, because we have Osha, the wildling, who's with Bran and Rickon. So to avoid confusion, they have renamed Asha, because Asha, Osha, potato, patata, it's too similar, and for some people that might have become confusing as to which character was which. I do get that. They did a similar thing in season 1 where they renamed Robert Arryn to Robin Arryn because we already have Robert Baratheon, Robb Stark. So to avoid confusion from a TV production point of view, they have renamed Asha. I get it. Makes complete sense. However, I really don't like the name Yara. I mean, it does sound like a pirate, yar. You know, it makes sense, she's an Ironborn. Completely get it, House Greyjoy, pirates, yeah, okay. The puzzle pieces kind of fit in. If you squeeze them and change the shape of the puzzle pieces, then yeah, sure. And it's a very like menial change, but it's one that I noticed. It's one I'm not a fan of. Could they not just call her Ash? Another minor change that I noticed is Cleos Frey has been replaced with Alton Lannister. And similarly, Marjorie Tyrell, half of her brothers have been removed. She has another brother called Garland, and then is there another one called Willis? Sorry, I'm doing this from memory and it has been a while since I read the books, but in the TV show she only has one brother, Loras, who, let's be honest, he's a stud, okay? You can't lie to yourself. I love the casting for him, but they've removed her other brothers, and that confused me a little bit at first, because there's a scene towards the end of season 2 where Loras is asking Joffrey for his hand in marriage to Marjorie, but in the books it's not actually Loras who does that, it is Garland, I'm pretty sure, who asks that. So they've given some of his dialogue to Loras because the other brothers don't exist. They just removed them. Similarly, if we're talking about other characters that they've removed, I mentioned this in season 1 comparisons as well, but they've removed Sansa's best friend Jane Poole, so she just does not exist at all, I'm pretty sure. They've definitely not casted anybody for her. And instead, they've made Shae more of Sansa's friend and companion. There are so many scenes where Shae is speaking to Sansa so much more than she ever does in the books, and especially in the Battle of the Blackwater, which was episode 9, and by the way, incredible episode, oh my goodness. Shae is like such a close companion to Sansa, whereas in the books she does not speak to her at all, especially not during that battle. Like, they just do not communicate. So I feel like because they've removed Sansa's companion in Jane Poole, they've actually given some of those elements to Shae instead. That's an okay change. Like, I'm not against that change. It adds more depth to Shae's character, I suppose, in the TV show. Oh, and we'll talk about this point a little bit later on because this leads into one of the big baddie major changes. But they've also removed Jane Westerling and replaced her with Lady Talisa, who hence marries Robb Stark and causes a lot of friction. To say the least, that is an understatement. Cannot wait to watch that. And I think it's going to be in season 3. I'm not ready. But my main point here is, why are they removing all the Janes? What have the Janes done? Jane Poole, Jane Westerling, where you at? Why have they removed you all and replaced you? I don't know what the Janes ever did to deserve this. Also, a part of the books that I think they've completely removed, unless this is in season 3, but I'm not up to that point yet, so I wouldn't know. The whole plot with Ser Dontos, where he promises to Sansa that he's going to rescue her from King's Landing, and he's a bit of a drunkard, a bit of a fool, and you've got the whole like Jonquil and Florian scenes between him and Sansa, which I actually really liked in the books. I know that they didn't add that much to the plot, but I think there was a lot of meaning behind them because it was about Sansa's hope diminishing completely, and it starts to change and develop her into a much more independent character. So really weirdly, right at the start of season 2, they had casted somebody for Ser Dontos. I think it is in like episode 1, it's right at the start of season 2. They casted somebody for him, but they've removed all of those scenes between him and Sansa. So I kind of thought, why have they casted him, but then not given him that part of the storyline that he's vital to? And he's not in like any other episodes, I'm pretty sure. I didn't recognise him again. So I don't know, that to me kind of thinks, did they have it in mind to put that in the TV show and they'd already gone through the effort of casting him and paying him, and then they decided to remove it last minute? I don't know. Another minor change that I noticed and kind of wondered whether or not this relates to my previous point that I made around trying to give more action to this season so it doesn't feel as slow paced, trying to add some more tension and conflict in there. But in the books, Jaime never kills his cousin. So in season 2, when he's kept prisoner by obviously Robb and Catelyn, he's Catelyn's prisoner, isn't he? He kills his cousin in order to escape. That doesn't happen in the books. So I wonder if they added that in to firstly add a bit more brutality and intimidation to Jaime's character, but also to add some more juiciness and some more action to season 2. So this next change, I suppose this might be the last of my small/minor changes. So I mentioned earlier about how they changed the timings of some events. So they've actually brought forward some of the things that would have been in season 3, because they're in the 3rd book, Storm of Swords. They've actually moved those into season 2. And there were also some moments from the 1st book that weren't in season 1 that they've then brought into season 2. I mentioned in my previous season 1 comparisons video that they hadn't casted anybody for Podrick Payne, Tyrion's squire. He didn't exist in the season 1 TV show, but he obviously was in the books. They've just casted him in season 2 instead, so he was very much so here in season 2. We had a Podrick Payne. So again, they just kind of changed the timings around of that. In terms of the timings as well, they also promoted Davos, my lovely Onion Knight, to being Hand of the King, Stannis, a lot earlier in Storm of Swords, which would have been season 3 if we're looking at like the seasons and the parallel books in the series. So they moved that forward. And again, I wonder if that's so it was more impactful during the Battle of the Blackwater, and also so that they could add more tension and a bit more of a powerful plot as well. And then there was some other things in terms of the timings that I noticed, such as Daenerys's handmaids. So there is one of them called Iri, I think it's pronounced. She died in season 2, unfortunately, rest her peaceful soul. But in the books, she actually dies all the way in Dance with Dragons, which is the most recent book that we have in the series. So they've made her die a lot earlier. So yeah, just some minor things that I noticed there in terms of the timings. I don't think that it makes a massive difference. It doesn't change like the storylines all that much. So I think that's why I've included those timings as being minor changes, but I think that they did do that to make the TV show a lot more action-packed than what the book Clash of Kings is. So those were the small minor changes that I noticed, or the ones that felt minor to me anyway. Now let's talk about the major differences. These were the big ones. These are the ones that I thought actually had a massive impact. Some of the ones that I may be unsure why they changed, or some of the ones I thought they changed for the better, because there were a few of those as well. So firstly, one of the big changes is obviously Robb Stark's love interest. So I mentioned earlier, it is not Jane Westerling, it is Lady Talisa, who is a brand new character made for the purpose of the TV show. I don't know why they changed them. So if anybody does know why they changed it from being Jane Westerling to Lady Talisa, please let me know, because I'm clueless at this point as to why they made that change. I also noticed as well that in the books, Robb just goes away, marries his missus, and then comes back and tells Catelyn, and she's like devastated because he's just gone off and done it off his own accord. Whereas in the TV show, he actually speaks to Catelyn about it before he gets married. So he tells her his intentions before he does so, and she begs him not to. And there's a very powerful speech where she talks about how when her and Ned first married, it wasn't for love, and that came afterwards. And yeah, a very, very powerful dialogue. But yeah, in the books, he just goes off and does it, and then comes back and she's like, oh, you got married? But then in the TV show, he actually tells her first. So yeah, just some things that I noticed, but I do think that they have a massive impact actually. Another big change I noticed, where is Ramsay Snow? Where is he? Now I have heard, because I did mention this in my previous episode reaction, it will have been for episode 9 or episode 10, because when Theon gets betrayed at Winterfell, in the books it's by Ramsay Snow. But at the moment, he's not yet been casted in the TV show. He doesn't exist. So instead, in the TV show, Theon is betrayed by his Ironborn. Now, I did start to worry that they hadn't casted anybody for Ramsay Snow when I saw that, because I thought, how can they not cast him? He's such a big character. He has got many juicy plots to come based on reading the books. But rest assured, a lot of you did tell me that he is actually present in season 3 instead. So that's another thing of like the timings. They haven't casted him in season 2, even though he is in book 2. But it sounds like he is casted in season 3 instead. So that will be really interesting when I meet him for the first time, because obviously I've not watched season 3 yet. He's such a big character. I am very excited to see who they've casted for him as well. One of the big major changes, which I think was a change for the better, some of these scenes gave me chills just due to the dialogue, but the interactions between Arya Stark and Tywin Lannister never happen in the books. But I think they are incredible in the TV show, because in the books she is Roose Bolton's cupbearer instead, not Tywin's. Like I said, this is a change for the better, I think, personally, because when you listen to the dialogue between those two, it is so powerful. And he's kind of sussing her out as well, that she's not who she says she is. And he's discussing his like battle plans against her own brother. The scenes, man, the scenes, like those, oh my goodness, those scenes are so well written. I had chills when watching them, and I do think that those interactions between Tywin and Arya are a massive positive change that is not in the books, and I think the TV show did it so well. Speaking of Arya as well, her escape from Harrenhal has changed ever so slightly. Again, this one probably is a minor change, but I'm just grouping it in with Arya. So, you know, there were a lot of changes for her in this season that were very major, so I'll just add this point in as well, just whilst I'm speaking of her. But in the TV show, it is Jaqen H'ghar who kills the guards at the gate so that she can just casually stroll on out with her little squad. But in the books, she actually basically does everything herself. She doesn't require Jaqen H'ghar's help to escape as much. So I'm wondering why in the TV show they made it so that she requires help a little bit more and asks for his help to escape, whereas in the books she's a bit more independent, a bit more of a badass. I feel like in the TV show she's not reached her full badassness yet, whereas in the books she was a badass from the get-go. Now I'm going to talk about a major change which was actually disappointing for me. So this was a change that I didn't like as much. Again, feel free to disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. But if you watched my episode by episode reactions, then you'll know that I was highly anticipating the death of Corin Halfhand. I was really nervous for it because I love Corin Halfhand in the books, albeit he's not in them for very long, unfortunately. And I think that the interactions between him and Jon Snow are very, very impactful, like so emotive. The scene in the books where Jon Snow needs to kill Corin Halfhand totally understands why. He actually tells Jon to kill him because it's for the benefit of the Night's Watch further down the line, and he knows that he needs to do it. So it's almost like he's sacrificing himself, and goodness, those were some of the chapters where I was like teary-eyed because they were just so well written and so beautiful and so powerful when he died. So that meant that I spent the majority of season 2 being scared to see Corin Halfhand die, because I also really liked who they casted for him, but I found his death anticlimactic. Eek. Did I just say that? Yeah, it was nowhere near as emotive or as saddening as I was actually kind of hoping it would be in the TV show. I think it's because in the TV show they didn't make it as clear that Corin Halfhand was sacrificing himself, or that he was like in on the plan, or that he was the one who basically told Jon Snow to kill him. In the TV show that's not as clear, whereas in the books it really is. And that's why it's so much more sad. And because you get Jon Snow's inner monologues as well, you can see kind of what's going through his mind during those events. It's so much more sad, whereas in the TV show I just didn't get that vibe from it as much. I don't know if maybe they didn't allow us to gain as much of a connection to Corin Halfhand, or maybe we didn't see as much guilt or sorrow from Jon Snow in the TV show. I don't know what it was. It just, to me, didn't feel as emotive as it was in the books, nowhere near. And it didn't feel like as much of a brave or honourable death. Even though it is, but it just didn't feel that way in the TV show. So that's one of those changes where I was actually kind of disappointed with it. There wasn't as much of a build up to it. And the only reason why I was anticipating the death and was scared about it was because I knew it was coming up, because I'd read the books first. Whereas if I hadn't have read the books first, I probably wouldn't have cared about Corin Halfhand's death. And that pains me to say. Another major change in season 2, which I didn't think was necessary, and I don't really understand why they've done it, is the whole plot where Dany's dragons are stolen in order to get her to the House of the Undying. So it's like a motive to get her over there. Whereas in the books, she kind of goes off her own accord. She has her main reasons for doing so. They are very valid reasons, but it really doesn't take that much convincing to get her there. Now, I know that in the TV show, you know, it's all for TV production. They want the action, they want the drama, they want the sauciness. They were probably just trying to add more tension and conflict by having her dragon stolen, but I just didn't like that. I felt like they didn't need to steal her dragons in order for her to get to the House of the Undying. I just felt like it was an unnecessary change for me. They could have kept the original reasons for why she went there and just produced it and adapted it in a really cool way for TV viewership. I don't think they needed to steal the dragons, personally. However, the actual scenes in the House of the Undying themselves, incredible. I love the vision with Khal Drogo. They actually did remove a foreshadowing of the Red Wedding as well, because in the books Dany does actually have a vision of a dead man with a wolf's head on the Iron Throne, which is obviously resembling the Red Wedding, unfortunately. But they completely removed that. I'm not sure if that's a good change or not. Maybe they just didn't want to spoil future events coming up in the next season. I was actually looking forward to seeing that vision, but alas, it wasn't there. However, the Khal Drogo vision that she had was really powerful, so strong. I really liked that. And my favourite scene from the entire season 2 was Dany commanding her dragons to use Dracarys and burning Piapri. I always pronounce his name wrong, but you guys know who I mean. The crazy cool looking warlock with the bald head. So that is different to the books because he doesn't actually die. In fact, in the books, I'm pretty sure he's just waiting outside for her when she leaves. Whereas in the TV show, there is such an incredible badass scene where she commands her dragons to just be the goats, really, aren't they? That, oh my goodness, the dragons are my favourite characters. And the whole way that that scene was adapted and delivered, the music, the tension, the scene of the flames coming out behind her, top tier TV production, absolutely incredible. My favourite scene of season 2. And ironically, my favourite scene from season 1 was when Dany's dragon eggs hatch. So it seems at the moment that all of my favourite scenes are to do with the dragons. Does that surprise you? If you are a frequent viewer of this channel, I don't think that's going to surprise you at all. I'm a massive dragon lover, potentially an obsessive one. So the final big change that I want to mention is obviously the Battle of the Blackwater. I've not talked about that much at all in this video, but my goodness, that was a crazy episode. Again, if you want to see my reaction to it, I would encourage you to, because it was so crazy. It was an emotional journey. But they changed actually quite a few things from that battle. So firstly, is this a big change? I don't know. Tyrion still has a nose. So in the books, he loses his nose. He goes full frontal Voldemort and his nose is completely gone after that. But in the TV show, he just gets a gash across his face. I know that that is because it's easier for them in hair and makeup to create a scar across his face rather than moulding prosthetics over him to make it appear as though he doesn't have a nose. I totally get why they've made that change. It's just for the convenience and the ease of the fact that he has to be in all the future seasons, and it's just not worth removing his nose every time. When he woke up at the start of episode 10 and he still had his nose attached, I don't know why it made me chuckle, it just did. Now, one of the actual big changes for the Battle of the Blackwater was that they actually removed Tyrion's trap on Stannis' fleet, you know, where he has the chains. Oh, well, I'm saying this as though you've read the books. I shouldn't automatically assume that everybody who's watched the TV show has read the books. So in the Battle of the Blackwater in Clash of Kings, Tyrion uses his big gigantic chain that he's built to trap Stannis' fleet. Yeah, they just removed that from the Battle of the Blackwater. I'm not sure why. Why would they remove that? I think that would have been good. Like, I think that would have been really cool to implement into the episode. A change that they also made in the Battle of the Blackwater was that Stannis is a lot more involved in the fight than he actually is in the books. So in the books, he's like not actually fighting personally, whereas in the TV show, he's like up there, he like climbs the wall, he's basically in the castle, he's on the castle walls and he's fighting and he's putting in all this graft and all this effort. I like that actually. I think that was a decent change. I know that kings don't normally do that because they do need to be protected, obviously. I like that they made him do that in the TV show because again, it makes him feel a lot more honourable, a lot more loyal. And then when you compare it to the fact that Joffrey just escaped and scarpered and left his men on the battlefield and Tyrion had to take over the command. So when you compare the approaches of Stannis compared to Joffrey escaping, Stannis being there in the fight with his men, oh, it makes me love him so much more. I am a Stannis fan. I'm a Stannis stan. And then in my opinion, one of the best changes for not just the Battle of the Blackwater, but also in the whole season, was the plot of Cersei obtaining the Nightshade so that she can kill herself and Tommen should Stannis win the fight. That just makes so much sense. She would rather die than subject them to whatever torture they're going to have after becoming Stannis' prisoner. It's a change that makes so much sense and I really liked it, and it was very emotive. And the end of the episode where she is literally, like the nightshade is almost touching Tommen's lip and then Tywin barges through the door, or it's Loras first, isn't it? But it was incredible and I think that was a solid change. I think that was a change for the better. So those were all of the changes that I noticed, and then just to finish off this video, I just want to share my thoughts as to whether or not I thought season 2 was a good adaptation of book 2. Let me hold the book back up, seeing as I'm talking about it again. Overall, yes, season 2 was a phenomenal adaptation of book 2. There were a lot more changes than in season 1. I feel like season 1 was very, very consistent with book 1. I feel like as the seasons progress, they're going to deviate away from the books more and more, and I am already starting to notice that because season 2 did change a fair few things from book 2. Not all of them bad though. So I know that a lot of people say that Clash of Kings is slow paced, whereas for me, season 2 of the TV show of Game of Thrones did not feel slow paced. I don't think. So I think that that is the reason for some of the changes that I've mentioned today, because they've made a potentially slow book not feel slow as a TV adaptation. In my opinion, you might have thought the TV show was slow, and that is absolutely fine, but these are just my opinions when I was watching my favourite book in the core series being adapted into a TV production. I think that they did it really, really well. They've done it justice, and it didn't feel slow to me. So that is everything that I'm going to say, because I've waffled on for so long that my throat is feeling quite sore. Should I be worried about that? Let me know what you thought to some of these changes. If you have read the books, even if you've read the books after the TV show, you'll still recognise changes. Doesn't matter what order you read or watch them in. So let me know whether or not you thought some of these were good or bad changes, and if you've noticed any other changes that I've not mentioned in this video, then please leave a comment to let me know as well. I really hope that you stick around to watch the season 3 reactions on my channel, because I can't wait. I'm so excited. Season 3 is going to be juicy because Storm of Swords is a very juicy book. There is so much that happens in it. I don't know how they're going to put this into a TV show. So I hope that you'll join me for that. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And if you like my content and you want to see more from me, then please subscribe, because it's free and it means that you'll see my videos easier. I also just want to give a huge shout out to the Dragon Riders who are supporting my channel. Thank you so much, it means the world to me. You are so appreciated. If you'd like to have your name featured in my videos like this one, then please consider becoming a Dragon Rider. Or if you'd like to support the channel in any way, then please check out the channel memberships. Thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it. I will see you next time, or rather you'll see me, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye for now.